The reincarnation destination was a lawless city, but somehow people fear me because I work as a silent repairman. Beasts roam everywhere. Chapter 1. The Girl and the Dream Between Machine and Reality. Prologue. The Silent Repairman. Click. The sound of metal gears locking together echoed somewhere deep in the darkness. There was no alarm clock. Morning sunlight should have come through the window, but this room had no such thing. Even so, his eyes opened at the same time every morning. Precise like a machine. Someone once laughed about it long ago. The ceiling above him was exposed steel beams. Bare concrete gave the room a cold industrial feeling. Yet despite the harsh appearance, it was surprisingly comfortable. The building had been given to him by an acquaintance as repayment for a favor. Compared to the crumbling shack he lived in before, it felt like a luxury home. His name was Rei Haishima, Neo Babel Free Autonomous Zone. Here he lived as a repairman. In a city where people broke objects broke, and even lives were sold cheaply, he simply repaired what was broken and earned a living. Rei reached toward the small shelf beside the bed and grabbed the canned coffee he bought yesterday. When he opened the tab, the faint smell of oxidized metal drifted into his nose. The sweetness of sugar mixed with bitterness as the coffee slid down his throat.
Another day of work.
On the workbench lay a job brought in yesterday, an old holo terminal. Its surface was scorched as if caught in an explosion. The display was cracked clean in half. Even the memory chip slot was twisted and deformed.
That thing took a beating.
The words slipped out of his mouth. Of course, there was no reply. The request itself was simple. Extract the data. Normally, it would be impossible. Most technicians would just throw it away. But Rei had something special. He placed his fingertips on the terminal. Then he called out a skill inside his mind. Target Holo Terminal X23. Damage rate 92%. Materials sufficient for repair. Repair available. It was a power he gained on the day he fell into this world. As long as he had the necessary materials, he could instantly repair almost any machine. A supernatural ability without explanation. Yet it was the reason he could survive in this city as a repairman. Rei answered with a simple response inside his mind. Okay. The holo terminal suddenly emitted a faint glow. The cracked display slowly restored itself. Burnt metal peeled away as if time were rewinding. Molecules rearranged themselves piece by piece, like a video playing in reverse. 5 seconds later, the terminal looked brand new. Then it started playing automatically.
He betrayed us. I am sure of it.
The voice sounded bitter and suppressed. Rei felt like he had heard it before. Probably one of the executives from the organization that requested the job. But it did not matter. Rei only accepted repair work. What was inside the device was none of his business. Without saying anything, he turned the power off. Then he took another sip of his canned coffee. The bitter sweetness of metal and sugar burned slightly in his throat. Bang, bang. A sharp metallic pounding shattered the silence of the workshop. The vibrations through the shutter were not polite knocks. It sounded desperate, like someone cornered and running out of time. Rei frowned slightly. Anyone showing up this early was rarely a normal customer, but ignoring them could cause bigger trouble later. Rei stood up and lifted the shutter slightly to look outside. A young gang member stood there. The tattoo on his shoulder marked a local crew that controlled the area. One arm was covered with scratches. A bloody cloth was clutched tightly in his hand. His face was pale, his breathing uneven. His eyes darted around like a frightened animal.
Hurry up! Open it! Damn it, let me inside!
His voice trembled. His breath came in desperate bursts. Above his head, something floated. A speech bubble formed in the air. Damn it, I am going to get killed. At this rate, I am dead. Rei quietly exhaled. This already smelled like trouble. Without speaking, Rei lifted the shutter slightly higher and opened the door halfway. He allowed the man inside.
Heh, thanks. Since I am here, I will also grab some food and anything valuable.
The man rushed forward deeper into the workshop. At that exact moment, another shadow appeared in the dark alley outside the door. Another man with the same gang tattoo. Rei recognized his face from the streets. A speech bubble floated above this man's head as well. Thought I lost you. You sure can run. Rei stood still and stared quietly at the floating words in the man's eyes.
You got guts hiding in this shop?
The man clicked his tongue. Then his gaze shifted toward Rei.
Sorry about this. That guy is a new recruit from outside.
The words sounded polite, but the forced smile on his face twitched nervously. The speech bubble above him revealed the truth. Damn it. Of all places, he had to run into this shop. If the boss finds out, I am dead too. The silent message trembled with fear. Rei remained completely still. He simply watched. The man suddenly grabbed his partner by the collar.
Move it. We are leaving.
He dragged the struggling man outside. While doing so, he repeatedly bowed toward Rei. Sweat covered his face as he forced a polite smile. The captured man shouted desperately, but Rei had no interest in listening. Soon the sound of their footsteps faded into the distance. Silence returned to the alley. Rei closed the door and exhaled deeply. He tossed the empty coffee can into a trash bin. It clattered loudly. The speech bubbles were another one of his abilities. The thoughts inside a person's mind appeared visually above their head. Because of that, Rei had never lost a game of poker. It also helped him avoid unnecessary trouble like this. What a hassle. The words stayed inside his chest. Rei sat back down at his workbench. He reached for the next broken device, quietly activating his skill again. Neo Babel, a city that was broken, corrupted, and yet still continued turning. And today, once again, Rei would sit here, silently repairing what was broken, while for some reason the people around him watched with fear. Chapter 1: Daily Life in Neo Babel. Early in the morning, I sit at my desk as usual and start finishing the requests that were brought in yesterday. It really is convenient. As long as the materials are prepared, the repair finishes with a single command. With my skill, there is not a single difficult task. Of course, work does not arrive every day. Sometimes nothing comes for an entire week, and sometimes it piles up all at once. Yesterday was unlucky. A lot of small requests came in at the same time.
There is a bit too much today.
I mutter while picking up the communication terminal that was lying on the desk. If I send a request to the courier, I know he will simply grab the items in the paperwork from the outside box and deliver them automatically. I tap the screen a few times and type the order. That should do it. My workshop and bedroom is basically a perfect property with zero rent. Because of that, I only need to earn enough to cover food and daily expenses. That is also why I set the price for normal repair jobs cheaper than the usual market rate. Most ordinary people in this city are completely broke. On the other hand, I charge troublesome customers a very generous premium.
Still, it would be a problem if all the work in the area kept coming to me.
Being glared at by other repairmen would be annoying. Although in reality, people do not glare at me. For some reason, they are strangely afraid of me. I have no idea why. Anyway, there are some items that are better delivered personally. Today is exactly that kind of job. The client is a well-known gang in this city called Greed Claw. I can smell trouble already. That is why I cannot trust someone else to carry it. I will have to deliver it myself. On the desk sits the requested item, a strange chip. Just by looking at it, I cannot even guess what it is used for. I carefully place it into a case designed with shock protection and anti-static treatment. Then I slide the case into the inside pocket of my jacket.
Good.
I lightly tap my chest to confirm it is secure and prepare to leave the workshop. Outside, it is the usual morning in Neo Babel. Polluted air and dust scatter the sunlight. Instead of brightening the city, the light only spreads a dull gray color everywhere. My home stands on the corner of a back alley. I heard the building once handled a power distribution system. Now it is broken and abandoned and slowly falling apart. That is the building I ended up receiving. When I look around, I can smell unknown meat grilling from a food stall that opened before noon. Next to it, small shacks made from nailed wooden boards lean against each other. On the ground, several addicts sit slumped over with empty expressions. Yet the space around my workshop remains strangely empty. No one comes near it. It is a quiet pocket in the middle of the slums.
Well, I guess that is convenient.
I smile bitterly and pull down the metal shutter. The hanging sign sways slightly and makes a small metallic sound. The sign reads Fixer. That is the name of my shop, a place that simply repairs broken things. Nothing more. I leave the shop and begin walking down the main street. Calling it a main street is generous. Shops, stalls, and mysterious junk dealers line both sides of the road. Every breath pulls in air, mixed with oil spices and sweat. Some people call this place Market Street. In reality, it is just a chaotic marketplace where everyone gathers. Rich people, poor people, and shady traders carrying suspicious goods all mixed together. When I look up, I can see neon lights from the upper district shining between the decaying buildings. Even during the day, they glow like a nighttime entertainment district. That area belongs to corporations and intellectual elites. Men in suits walk proudly while actresses smile from holographic advertisements. It is a completely different world. Meanwhile, the area I am walking through is the free zone, the so-called autonomous district. The name sounds nice, but it is basically a slum. You can do whatever you want here. At the same time, the law has absolutely no power. Criminals create the rules and violence creates order. Freedom in this place simply means people die whenever someone feels like it. The place I'm heading toward is Greed Claw, one of the gangs that control this city. For me, they are also a troublesome regular customer. On the surface, they operate vehicle maintenance, part recovery, and security services. Behind the scenes, they deal in illegal chips, modified weapons, stolen vehicles, and even human body parts. They are basically a walking black market.
They really do everything.
I mutter to myself. Because of them, repair requests never stop. Fixing damaged vehicles, weapons, and machines after explosions is not easy work. For them, I am a convenient contractor. For me, they are a reliable source of money. It works both ways. However, this repair request feels different. Repairing an IC chip itself is not unusual. Normally, an organization would have its own specialist technicians handle it. Information chips and modification chips are extremely sensitive. If the data leaks, it could destroy the entire organization, yet they sent it to me.
Something smells suspicious.
I keep walking while thinking about that. Then I notice something ahead near a side alley. The area is hidden behind a maze of buildings. From here, it should be impossible to see what is there. But I know someone is there. More precisely, I can see the speech bubble coming from that person. My ability can pick up the thoughts of everyone nearby. If I leave it fully active, my view fills with speech bubbles until it becomes unbearable. So I usually limit it to thoughts directed at me. It took time to learn control, but now it feels natural. The speech bubble is floating clearly beyond the wall. Physical obstacles do not block it. The words inside the bubble appear clearly.
I will kill him. That bastard thinks he can mock me. I will kill him.
The hostility is obvious.
I quietly snort. Have I made enemies before? Probably not zero.
I do not pretend to be perfectly innocent. At the same time, I have never actively chased trouble either. Maybe it is a drug addict. Maybe it is some self-righteous vigilante. Either way, it does not matter. If trouble comes at me, I deal with it. I slowly slide my hand inside my jacket and draw my pistol. Hog Model 3. I repaired it from what used to be scrap metal. It looks like an antique firearm using physical ammunition. Inside, however, an electromagnetic cylinder accelerates the bullet and produces railgun-level firepower.
I do not understand the theory, but it hits ridiculously hard.
I aim the muzzle directly below the floating speech bubble. Then I pull the trigger. A deep explosion from the gunpowder. A sharp metallic sound from the electromagnetic acceleration. A beam of white light tears through the wall like lightning. The next moment, a perfect hole appears in the wall of the alley. On the other side, half of the attacker's upper body has completely vanished. The air trembles for a moment. Some people nearby react with surprise or fear. Others rush forward to loot whatever belongings the dead man left behind. In this city, even a man exploding in the street does not stop daily life. I return the pistol to the holster and continue walking without looking back. Someone on the other side of the wall might have been caught in the shot. That, too, is simply life in this city. Chapter 2. An Executive of Greed Claw. I walk through a maze of dirty alleys, turning left then right, and sometimes climbing up or down half-collapsed staircases. Normally, I would take my car, but today the destination makes that inconvenient. Driving would force a long detour. So I move along on foot instead.
Well, a little exercise is not bad sometimes. People say it is good for your health. I would not know, though.
I mutter with a crooked smile. Honestly, how many people in this city even care about health? Most people here only chase immediate pleasure. Alcohol, drugs, and cheap prostitutes. Those three things might as well be the sacred treasures of this city. Of course, there are a few people who still think normally. But those people usually end up dead. Or before long, they become addicts themselves.
Scary place.
I shrug while speaking to myself. Anyone who survives here usually has something special. Luck, strange abilities, or a mind that is already a little broken. I know a few people like that. But I push the thought aside. Before I notice, I have reached my destination. In front of me hangs a flashy sign that reads Parts Shop. Some of the neon lights no longer blink. They simply remain dark like dead eyes. A cartoon image of a car sits beside the sign, but parts of it have also gone dark, which makes it look ridiculous. Next to the three-story building is a large factory. Several cars move in and out of the open shutter. Officially, this place is a dealer that sells and modifies vehicle parts. In reality, it is the base of Buzz Cordo, an executive of the gang Greed Claw. I ignore the entrance meant for regular customers. Instead, I walk around the side of the building toward the back door. In the alley, several young men are hanging around. Their hair is brightly colored and their faces are covered in piercings. What they are smoking looks like cigarettes. In reality, they are cylinder-style drug inhalers. Strange colored smoke drifts through the air and leaves a sharp chemical smell in my nose. I frown slightly. One of the young men notices me. He quickly removes the device from his mouth and throws it to the ground. He crushes it under his shoe while shouting.
Good morning, boss.
The tough-looking man with ridiculous hair and piercings bows his head with surprising politeness. I almost laugh but hold it back. My face probably ends up looking strange instead. As expected, a speech bubble floats above his head. Damn it, why does he show up when I am on duty? Hurry up and bow, you idiots, or he will kill us. I answer only in my thoughts. I am not going to kill anyone. Although to be fair, I did shoot someone in an alley earlier. That was self-defense. Definitely self-defense. While I am thinking that the other young men quickly stand up and bow as well.
Sorry about that. Please go ahead.
The young gang member stretches his arm out to clear a path.
It is fine. Relax.
I wave casually and walk toward the door. Several security cameras attached to the building rotate with soft mechanical sounds while tracking my movement. I ignore them and grab the door handle. The airlock releases pressure with a short burst of sound. Then I step inside. Inside the building, a woman stands behind the counter. Her face is beautiful and her smile is perfectly balanced. I do not recognize her. Either she is new or she literally has a new face. When our eyes meet, she smiles politely and greets me.
Mr. Haishima, thank you for visiting. Mr. Cordo is waiting upstairs. Please use this elevator.
I can tell immediately from the tone of her voice. She is not human. That is a customer service android made by Vera Corporation. Those machines are extremely expensive. Depending on the model, one unit costs more than a year of salary for someone in the upper districts, and they installed it at the back entrance. That is excessive even for showing off. Personally, I do not understand what people like about that perfect artificial smile. I step into the elevator hidden behind a partition beside the android. It is a private elevator away from public view. The elevator rises with a small vibration. A cheerful chime rings out. The door opens into a spacious waiting room. Several subordinates of Cordo stand guard in silence. They send sharp looks toward me. The moment they recognize my face, their tension eases and they bow slightly.
Welcome. He is waiting inside.
The two guards standing at the door push open a heavy wooden door. The moment I step inside, I almost want to whistle. The room is as extravagant as always. The office has an old-fashioned atmosphere. The desk is made from natural wood, which is rare in this era. Decorative cabinets with heavy carvings stand against the walls. Real oil paintings hang above them. None of it is synthetic. The value of this single room could buy a fortune. It feels like a completely different world compared to the filthy slums outside. A large man sitting on the sofa at the back notices me and raises one hand casually.
Hey, it has been a while. How are things going?
His presence is overwhelming as always. I am fairly tall myself. Even so, he is still a full head taller. His height is close to 2 meters and his body is packed with muscle that almost tears through his jacket. His shaved head shines like polished metal. His face carries no wrinkles yet his expression looks sharp and confident. He is intense. But strangely, I do not dislike him. Maybe it is because we share similar taste in rooms. On the table sits a bottle filled with amber-colored liquor and 2 glasses. One glass is already filled to the brim. Cordo grabs it and drains the entire thing in one gulp. That alcohol should be about 70%. Drinking that like water should burn a hole through your stomach. What a monster. He gestures for me to come over. I sigh and sit down heavily on the sofa. Cordo grins and pours liquor into the empty glass in front of me. He refills his own glass as well and raises it. Fine. I lift my glass and lightly tap it against his. The clink sounds dull because the glasses are filled too high. Chapter 3. The Dangerous Chip. Rei raises the glass and brings it close to his face. A soft aroma drifts upward. It carries a sweet scent like vanilla, mixed with the smoky smell of aged barrels and the deep fragrance of long fermentation. When he gently tilts the glass, thin streaks of light run along the inside surface. The light blends with the amber liquid, and the boundary shifts like a sky where night and dawn mix together. Rei brings the glass to his lips. He takes a small sip. A sharp numbness touches the tip of his tongue. Immediately afterward, a sweet, bitter aroma bursts through his nose. As the liquor slides down his throat, a brief burning heat appears, then quickly fades.
Ha!
Rei breathes in through his nose and slowly exhales through his mouth. For a moment, the alcohol in his breath almost looks white in the air. The alcohol content is high, but the flavor is excellent. Rei believes drinks like this should be sipped slowly over ice. He smiles faintly. Still, it is free alcohol, so he cannot complain. Rei swallows another mouthful. The amber liquid spreads warmth through his body. Then he notices something. Cordo is staring at him from across the table.
What are you looking at?
Rei places the glass down and glares slightly. Being stared at by a man is not something he enjoys. Cordo laughs quietly and his shoulders shake.
Nothing special. I was just thinking we have known each other for quite a while now.
That came out of nowhere.
Rei feels slightly uneasy, but when he thinks about it, the statement is true. Cordo has helped him several times since he arrived in this city. Before long, they reached the point where they could sit together and drink like this.
Life can be strange sometimes.
Rei lightly swirls the remaining amber liquid in his glass.
Strange indeed.
Cordo suddenly drinks his glass in one gulp and slams it down on the table.
Anyway, enough of that. You brought the chip I asked about, right?
Rei suppresses the insult that almost leaves his mouth. Instead, he nods silently and reaches into the chest pocket of his jacket. He removes the case containing the chip.
Here you go. It is fully repaired.
Rei slides the case across the wooden table. It glides over the surface and stops in front of Cordo. The huge man reaches out with surprisingly careful movements. He opens the lid and looks inside.
At least from the outside, it looks repaired.
Cordo lifts the chip between his fingers and holds it toward the light. When it first arrived, the chip had been burned and nearly destroyed. Now it looks almost brand new thanks to Rei's skill. After examining it, Cordo returns the chip to the case and closes the lid. He sets it carefully beside the table.
You are not going to check the data inside.
The information inside might be dangerous. I want it examined somewhere secure, but you will get your payment. I trust you not to mess with it.
A speech bubble flickers faintly above Cordo's head. Even so, we still do not know the exact details. The data was cut off when the chip broke. How dangerous it is will only become clear later. Rei raises one eyebrow.
Sounds like it might be more troublesome than I expected.
Rei brings his terminal closer to the table. A moment later, a notification appears confirming the payment. He checks the amount.
That is a pretty nice sum.
A small smile appears on Rei's face. With this money, he can relax for quite a while. Cordo snorts and speaks in a low voice.
I do not know how much you already know, but listen carefully. Do not dig too deeply into this one. This is serious business.
A speech bubble flickers above Cordo. He always seems strangely well informed. I have people watching him, but he does not even have a dedicated information broker. Where does he get his information? Rei already knows Cordo has been investigating him. Several suspicious thoughts have appeared around him before.
Relax. I have no interest in that chip anyway.
Rei finishes the remaining amber liquor in one swallow. The burning alcohol flows down his throat and into his stomach. His expression remains completely calm. Rei places the empty glass on the table and slowly stands.
Well, that is enough for today. Call me again if something comes up. If I feel like it, I might take the job.
Rei turns toward the door. Just before leaving, he suddenly looks back.
That drink was good. Next time, bring some chocolate to go with it.
Rei smiles lightly and walks toward the door.
Sure. See you next time.
Cordo answers with a short but firm voice. Rei says nothing else and pushes open the heavy door. In the hallway, the waiting subordinates bow all at once.
See you later.
The android returns a perfectly programmed smile. Rei still finds it unsettling. Outside, the noise of the city rushes in all at once. Dirty air, flickering neon lights, shouting voices, laughter, and strange music from distant alleys all mix together into the breathing of the city. Rei walks forward while thinking about buying something sweet on the way home. Suddenly, a small prickling sensation runs across his back. Someone is watching him. The attempt at tailing him is clumsy. They are trying to hide, but their presence stands out instead. Rei casually walks toward a nearby street stall. He pretends to inspect the strange sweets displayed there while secretly glancing behind him. The distance is too far to read the speech bubble clearly, but he can see that one is definitely there. Who is it? Who sent them? Rei grumbles quietly in his mind. For some reason, he has been targeted several times today. Then again, life is cheap in this city. If someone carries real malice, it will reveal itself eventually. When that moment comes, he will deal with it. With that simple conclusion, Rei begins walking again. His footsteps fade into the noise of the crowd.
Now then, I should find a real fruit tart before heading home.
Chapter 4. A request from a well-dressed woman. I walked home while rolling 2 ping-pong ball-sized spheres in my right palm, carefully making sure they did not click together. Maybe because it was already past noon, the day laborers had mostly disappeared. The street felt unusually quiet. Of course, in this city, quiet just meant a time of day when the smell of death was slightly weaker. In the end, I never did get the tart I was looking for today. Instead, I found a pair of small EMP grenades at a junk shop. They fit perfectly in the palm of my hand, yet each one could disable anything within a 10-meter radius. The price was reasonable, too. Not a bad insurance policy for emergencies. Come to think of it, did this city even have a sport called ping pong? The closest thing I saw at a bar was some ridiculous race where heavily modified cyborgs smashed balls with prosthetic limbs instead of rackets. In the end, it was just another excuse for gambling.
Well, maybe I will check it out sometime if I feel like it.
I muttered to myself as I turned the corner. What came into view should have been my familiar workshop and home with its metal shutter. Instead, there was someone standing in front of it. A woman. And judging by her appearance, she was far too well dressed for this part of the city. Every now and then, she lightly knocked on the shutter while muttering something to herself. Between knocks, she kept glancing around nervously.
Well, I will be damned. Amazing she made it here in one piece.
In this free district, an outfit like that made someone a perfect target. Getting kidnapped would be the lucky outcome. If she were unlucky, a public disassembly show could have started right on the street. The only reason she was still standing there was probably because the locals assumed she was connected to me and left her alone. Which was funny, considering I had absolutely no idea who she was. Still leaving her there felt unpleasant. I guess I might as well talk to her.
Hey, what do you want?
My voice made the woman jolt violently. The moment she turned around, a small scream split the air.
Yeah.
She immediately dropped to her knees, trembling while clutching her head with both hands.
Come on now.
A sigh escaped my mouth. I honestly had no idea how she managed to make it through the chaos of this city to reach this place. It was practically a miracle.
Do not crouch in the middle of the street like that. So what is it? Did you come to see the repair shop?
While speaking casually to the trembling woman, I pulled my key from my pocket and unlocked the shutter. The metal door rattled loudly as it rolled upward, the grinding sound echoing through the alley. Dust rose into the air and tickled my nose. Once the shutter finished rolling up, I unlocked the door as well.
If you came here for business, then come inside. If not, then hurry up and leave.
When I said that, the woman flinched and quickly raised her head. She opened her mouth as if searching for words. Then she hesitated. In the end, she just stood there silently. It was as if a giant speech bubble had appeared above her head. So this is that Repairman. What do I do? I came all the way here, but what if he kills me?
Hey now.
Do I really look that dangerous? Actually, I could not completely deny the possibility.
Looks like you have nothing to say. Goodbye.
I spat the words out and started closing the door.
Wait, please. I'm sorry. I do have business here.
She rushed toward me desperately. A faint scent of high-quality perfume drifted through the air. It was expensive but subtle, the kind of fragrance someone accustomed to wealth would wear naturally.
All right, I get it. I will at least hear you out. Now step back a little.
I waved my hand lightly and made her put some distance between us before letting her inside. I removed my jacket and hung it on the wall. The small EMP grenade I had been playing with earlier landed on my workbench with a dull clunk. When I sat down, the air suspension chair sank softly beneath me and supported my weight. I pointed to the single-seat sofa across from me. The woman carefully lowered herself into it like she was afraid it might explode. I observed her again. She wore a deep-pulled newsboy cap and practical pants instead of a dress. She was clearly trying to look less out of place. Even so, her skin was smooth and flawless. Her hands were the same. Strands of silver hair slipped from beneath her cap and shimmered like polished metal. Her makeup was light and natural. Nothing about her resembled the gaudy look of nightlife workers. Her lips were tightly pressed together. Earlier, when she shouted, I caught a glimpse of perfectly aligned teeth. No matter how I looked at her, she was clearly from the upper districts, probably the well-raised daughter of some wealthy household. So why in the world was someone like that wandering alone into a place like this? I clicked my tongue in my head. After another sigh, I settled into my chair.
All right then. What exactly do you want?
I opened the small refrigerator beneath my desk and took out 2 bottles of water. I set one on the desk and tossed the other lightly toward her. She flailed awkwardly but somehow managed to catch it. Then she released a huge sigh of relief. Yeah, she definitely did not belong in a place like this.
Thank you very much for the water.
She timidly thanked me before opening the tab and taking a sip. After moistening her throat, her breathing finally calmed. Still looking down, she slowly began speaking.
It is about my younger sister. Her health has always been fragile. She received genetic treatments, but she was still left with disabilities.
I listened while folding my arms. Honestly, stories like this were common enough. But in this district, children like that usually disappeared long before they grew up. The fact that she survived at all was proof her family belonged to the upper class.
Because of that, we gradually replaced the damaged parts of her body with prosthetics. Now about half of her body is mechanical, but even so, she was able to live a normal life.
When she reached that point, tears gathered at the corners of her eyes. She paused and took a deep breath.
But one day she installed an update chip meant for treatment. Suddenly, her body started malfunctioning. We had to forcibly remove the chip. It saved her life, but her body was left in terrible condition. The doctor we know, and even the technicians all said the same thing. They said it cannot be repaired.
Her final words trembled. At last she broke down and began crying quietly. The bottle she was gripping bent inward with a soft crunch. That chip I handed over earlier. Cordo said it came from the upper districts. Could it really be the same thing? The woman wiped her tears and raised her face.
I heard rumors that the repairman here can fix anything. So please, I beg you, please save my sister. Please fix Cecily.
She clasped her hands together and stared at me desperately. The tears in her silver hair reflected the light painfully.
By the way, do you still have that chip?
She shook her head.
No. At first we wanted to investigate the cause and file a lawsuit using the chip as evidence, but before we realized it, the chip had disappeared. It may have been lost during the chaos of the treatment.
She explained that many people had come and gone during the emergency treatment. Then, as if remembering something, she quickly searched her pocket and pulled out a terminal.
But I do have an image of the chip that was removed during treatment. I recorded it together with my sister condition. I thought it might be useful someday.
She held the screen toward me. Displayed on the screen was a twisted and burned chip. It was identical in every detail to the chip I had just handed to Cordo before repair.
Chapter 5. Negotiating the terms. The woman pulled the terminal close to her chest as if protecting it, and continued speaking with a tearful voice.
I think this chip is the cause. An engineer we have known for a long time introduced it to us. He said if we built a new system, it might be possible to rebuild the damaged areas from the foundation. He said if it worked, we might even be able to reintroduce biological parts. I never imagined something like that would happen.
New tears gathered at the corners of her eyes, and light shimmered across her trembling eyelashes. I snorted quietly and rested my hand on my chin. From what I heard, it sounded like an invasive virus type, the kind that slowly spreads from the edges of the body and gradually steals away function. Normally, you could stop it by cutting away the infected area and replacing it with prosthetics. But in rare cases, the spread never stops. Her sister was probably one of those unlucky cases.
So what happened to that engineer?
I asked in a low voice. 90% of the time, the suspicious one was the person who brought the tech.
My father took him somewhere immediately and questioned him, but he said the chip had been supplied through another company.
Somewhere, huh? I murmured quietly to myself. If the man was still alive, we could squeeze information out of him. If he was already at the bottom of the ocean, then the trail ended there.
And what company was that?
Vera Corporation, a large trading company. I heard they recently acquired several medical companies. I think the chip probably came from there.
Vera, huh?
I let out a short breath. A massive corporation. Just hearing the name already sounded like trouble. Digging into them would be a pain. Still hunting the culprit could wait. The real issue was the request. She wanted me to save her sister. She was clearly from the upper districts, which meant the job would definitely be complicated. But the chip bothered me. If it was really the same one I handed to Cordo earlier, then the situation became more interesting. Well, whatever. I did not have any major jobs right now anyway. I made my decision.
I understand the situation now.
I leaned back in my chair and looked straight into the woman's eyes.
I am willing to accept the request. But first we need to negotiate the conditions.
Her face brightened instantly and her silver hair shifted slightly.
Thank you very much.
Of course, if the conditions do not match, the deal is off. And if the job fails, I take no responsibility. Are you fine with that?
A dry smile slipped from my mouth. Contracts in this city were basically worthless pieces of paper. If the job failed, someone would probably come looking for revenge. But if that happened, I would just beat them down myself.
Yes. Everyone we asked told us it was impossible. Please, I am begging you, my sister. Please save Cecily.
She bowed deeply. Her shoulders trembled and a tear fell onto the floor.
First we discuss the payment.
I picked up the water bottle and wet my throat before continuing.
For troublesome jobs like this, I always require an advance payment. So what is the total amount you can offer?
The woman lowered her gaze for a moment, then raised her head. There was a strange determination in her eyes.
I will give you all the shares I personally own in the company my family runs.
Her voice did not tremble. The weight of her statement made me raise one eyebrow. Wait a second. I realized I had not even asked her name yet.
By the way, what is your name?
For a moment she looked confused. Then she quickly straightened her posture.
Yes, I am sorry. I heard the rumors about you and I could not stay still any longer. My name is Lucia Rainberg. Perhaps you know the Rainberg Corporation. It is my father's company.
Rainberg. The moment I heard the name, alarm bells rang in my head. Food production, distribution, transportation networks, land, sea, and air. A massive corporation with enormous influence in the upper districts. I pulled out my terminal and searched quickly. The result appeared immediately: Lucia Rainberg, the second daughter of the company president. She was involved in management and had already become an executive director at only 24 years old. The attached image showed the same woman sitting across from me, smiling and waving at what looked like an upper district ceremony. I see. For a moment I considered the possibility of cosmetic fraud or prosthetic impersonation. But there was little reason for such an elaborate trick. I closed the terminal and looked directly at her again.
Are you really the real one? Someone that important came to a place like this alone.
I'm sorry. I heard the rumors about you and I could not stay still any longer.
If thoughts had speech bubbles, they would be visible now. The silence stretched for a beat. Then she added, softly,
My sister is counting on you.
The room seemed to hold its breath. Either way, it was not my problem.
So you are a reckless young lady.
I crossed my arms while speaking with a hint of sarcasm.
Now then, how much are those shares actually worth?
Rainberg Corporation stock. Even 1% would let someone live in luxury in the upper districts for several lifetimes.
I will give you 5% of the shares I personally own. And as an advance payment, I can transfer 1 million credo immediately.
A whistle slipped out of my mouth. The advance payment alone could build a mansion.
Next question. How much time do I have?
Even while asking, I already knew the answer.
As soon as possible. Honestly, I would like you to come with me right now if you can.
Lucia looked straight at me as she spoke. Her eyes trembled with desperation, but she did not try to hide it. That made sense. Her sister probably did not have much time left. The prosthetic systems holding back the damage had likely already begun to fail. Once an invasive virus started spreading, it accelerated rapidly. Time was running out.
Fine.
I let out a long sigh and pulled a large terminal from the side table. I quickly entered the necessary information and opened a contract template. Then I handed the terminal to Lucia. The moment she received it, her eyes widened and her face filled with joy.
This means you will accept.
Sign that contract. And once the advance payment is confirmed, the deal is complete. Then we leave immediately.
As I spoke, I drained the rest of the bottle in one gulp. Cold water flowed down my throat and settled deep in my stomach. I crushed the empty bottle in my hand and the plastic crumpled loudly.
Thank you very much.
Lucia responded louder than ever before. Her hands trembled slightly as she signed the contract and operated her own terminal to process the transfer. Her movements were practiced, but I still noticed the faint shaking in her fingers.
The transfer is complete. Please confirm.
I took the terminal she offered and checked the display. Voice authentication, vein authentication, retinal authentication, 3 layers of verification. The transfer log was clearly recorded as well. Seeing the number on the screen naturally brought a smile to my face.
Yes. The payment is confirmed.
All right then. It had been a while. Time to visit the upper districts again.